my name's David. I am the Educational Services Director, as Melissa mentioned, for Avantis LearnPad. So I thought I'd give you a bit of a background about Avantis LearnPad and then take you through the keys that we found to working with international markets, working with schools and companies abroad as well. So Avantis has been around for about 18 years. We are educational specialists. We work in moving content around schools from caching servers, CD servers, and then moving forward, bringing in the LearnPad brand. We moved into tablets in 2011. So we're in about 500,000 devices around the world, LearnPad devices. That's over 3 million children that use our tablets daily, and over 20 countries around the world. So what I thought I'd take you through was the logic and the thinking behind working with different territories and the pitfalls and problems that we've encountered, and share them with you so that you can learn from our mistakes. So as I mentioned, that's me, David. If it all goes well, there's some forms here, fill them in. If it doesn't go well, I'm Steve, and I don't work for Avantis, so feel free, but your feedback would be greatly appreciated, so please do fill the forms in. I'm not one for big long presentations, so I've gone with a couple of keywords, and I'm going to talk through and give you my thoughts about those. So number 1 point, there's 5 points, don't worry, it's not going to be too long, is knowledge. And I can't emphasize enough having a clear understanding of your market's requirements. We are a UK-based company. We've worked in the UK, as I mentioned, for 18 years, and our understanding of the UK education industry is obviously very in-depth. So applying that thinking and taking your product into a different country, a different territory, having knowledge and understanding of that area is key. Countries work in different ways, their education sectors work in different ways, and your assumptions of the way that you run your business in the UK cannot be applied globally. So to give you an idea, we work heavily in some of the African nations. Our infrastructure and setup in the UK is obviously much stronger, and you have to design your product to fit that. You can't take a product off the shelf in the UK and just drop it into a new market and expect it to work. So having a clear understanding of their requirements, both at a government level, but most importantly of a classroom teacher, that's the key to the way that we work, is that we always try and think, what are the contexts, what are the solutions we're trying to provide day to day for the classroom teacher. And as I say, I can't emphasize enough how important that is, of always having that in the back of your mind when you're thinking about other markets, communities, and working with them. Obviously working with the likes of the UKTI and using their experience and their knowledge gets you up to speed much quicker. You can't just take a product into Russia and expect it to work. So understanding the requirements, having that knowledge before you go into a territory of potential pitfalls or shortcomings. Again, referencing other companies that have done the same. We work with several other companies and advise each other on how movement into different territories has gone. So key point of understanding the market that you're moving into. Obviously that then leads into planning, and I've lumped planning in together with designing your product, and it's actually quite a complicated process, but if you design your product from the beginning with export and other territories in mind, then you will learn from the mistakes that we made by having to go and retrofit parts of the solution at a later date. If you're designing like us, hardware and software for different territories, and you don't support right to left or left to right, don't support cyrillic characters, you have to re-engineer all of your software again if you want to go in to Dubai or to Russia, for example. So thinking about how your product sits and its requirements in that market are key, and as I say, all part of that planning stage. So the whole idea of the planning stage for us is looking at every minute part of what we do, from even how we deliver the product in a different territory, what box it comes in. So when we're designing a new aspect of our solution, we keep text down to a minimum if we can. We keep icons standardized across the range so that they will lead and they're intuitive for teachers. That reduction in text makes a massive time-saving aspect for us as a business, because we're not having to reprogram everything. We use a centralized translation engine that sits behind our full product range. So when we move into a new territory, it just means we switch it over and then we get our in-territory partners to work with us to customize any of the slight language glitches. But having that engine sat in the background is key to saving my team and my staff's time in having to change everything every time that we move into a new market. So as I say, at the moment we're in over 20 countries. So you can imagine every time you send an update, every time you push a new piece of marketing literature out, that is getting re-engineered and customized to those local languages. So keeping the branding consistent and clean, as I say, reducing text as much as possible, as you can tell from my presentation, but that is key to making sure that you're not spending time, lots of time and money using translation services and re-engineering everything. So, and I mentioned earlier on that is everything from the way in which we design our boxes and packaging. Different countries require different standards and labels on the boxes. So making space for those or bearing those in mind when you design your original concept is key. It saves you coming back at a later date and trying to retrofit everything back in again. So, as I mentioned, that's everything from the way that we palletize things. Different countries require, we move hardware backwards and forwards, so we're moving tablets in and out of different countries. Those different countries have different requirements in terms of the testing procedure. When it goes through customs, certain countries require inspections at a device level. So if I'm shrink wrapping everything up, packaging it up and sending it into territory, that's not going to work when it gets to the end user. The packaging will be destroyed, the perception and the brand is ruined by that point, so we have to package everything up with that inspection and that process in mind. I mentioned that we use a translation service so that all of our software, as I say, sits in a web portal. So that means that as and when we push any changes, we apply a global update and the translations and localizations cascade down to all of the territories in one go. That means that we're not spending time with territories running on different versions with different requirements. Everyone's on the latest, most up-to-date, and most importantly, again, that focus on the teacher, make sure that the teacher's got the most up-to-date version as quickly as possible. So having that system designed with that ability to retranslate, to change territory, to change language is key a part of what we do. Coming down to the actual device itself, as you might imagine with hardware, there are a variety of different problems that arise from shipping tablets into different territories. In the UK, we have 24-hour power, reliable Wi-Fi in the majority of our schools. When we're starting to work like we do in Lagos, for example, power gets cut at 6 o'clock in the schools. So our perception of being able to charge devices overnight, update devices overnight changes completely. So we really have to change your thinking and your concept behind how the solution works. So we developed a way of caching all of the content locally in the school. So when the power was available, when the service provider, the internet was up, they could download it and it would sit on site then, and then whenever it was needed, it will be pulled locally from that box. So that's key to making sure, again, that consistent experience for the teacher, that we want to make sure that device is always ready to go, always there, always reliable, and thinking through those stages is key to sort of doing that as well. Mentioned localization in sort of passing in the planning stage, but it is so important that you don't attempt to take a product from, in our case, a tried, tested, award-winning UK product and just place it into a market and expect it to succeed in the same way. Now, that is a very generalized term, as you can see there, but it's everything from the way in which you communicate to the customer, how your brand is represented, thinking purely as the business at that point. If you're, in our case, obviously we do a lot of reading, and we did a lot of work behind the Three Little Pigs story. Now, you can't then take that product and just stick that on the box and send it out into Dubai. So you have to bear in mind that, the cultural and religious sensitivities when you're designing and thinking about the product. If you, as I say, learning from experience, you go back and you have to retrofit all of that again, which is why we try and keep a very clean and consistent feel across not only the products, but the branding, the marketing, and everything as well. The brand is very key to us at Avantis, so having a recognized brand, and everyone that has an interaction with us, I want to replicate the experience I would expect them to have in the UK, in our territories around the world. Now naturally brings about problems because we're working with potentially different partners. They're not always, we don't have regional centres in all of our territories, so we're reliant on our partners representing our brand, looking clearly at what we do and how it looks. So that localisation can be anything from just making sure the graphics are consistent and appropriate for all of your territories, all of your language, all your marketing output is easily transferable across your different ranges. You will spend a lot less time then, you will control the brand much better if you're not reliant on your local partners to customise and relocalise content for you. It means, so I've already mentioned in passing there the reliance on partners, and I can't emphasise enough how important the correct partner is and using them to be your eyes and ears and your feet on the ground. They have to represent you to your customers, to everyone else that sees you, to a customer in Nigeria, in America, in Dubai. It doesn't matter to them that you're using a partner or a different distribution partner. They see LearnPad arriving in their school and they expect it to work like they saw it when I showed it to them on the stand. So using that localization, using that knowledge, finding the right approach for that territory. So I mentioned that we're in a school in Lagos where the power goes out in the evening, and bearing that in mind when designing the product again. So all the way through from conception to planning to implementation to training, it's finding the right approach. If teachers in the UK like to be trained in a twilight session or during the day, that's not the way that it works in Nigeria, so we go out and we deliver a training session in a whole week. But if you go out with that perception of being able to do exactly what you do in the UK, then it just won't work. So it's key to making sure that the product is used, but also from a company point of view to make sure that the brand is represented properly. I mentioned in passing as well the partner piece. It really is, having the correct partner. As I say, they're an extension of your team, they're an extension of your company. Building that global community is essential to the way we work as a business. So having people that offer that same level of support and service for our customers is key. So you don't want to spend all of your time retraining people. You want to bring your partners to bring expertise, their local knowledge, their local relationships into the fold as well. As I say, they need to represent your brand, which isn't always easy for someone that is potentially another product line as part of an offering. So training them up to represent you, giving them all of your key terminology, the way you work, the way you deliver, the way you market, having access and availability to me so that I can work with them and train them and get them up to speed. So, works on a lot of different levels. Key for us as a brand around the world that we keep a consistent approach, that the LearnPad experience is what I would expect it to be, but also from the peace of mind of the school that is ending up with the equipment in the end. I want to know that a device sold in the UK and a device sold in Nigeria will have the same experience, they'll get the same outcomes. We spend a lot of time developing the technology, so I want the approach and the consistency across the range. The partner then is key in delivering that. They will be the face, the person on the end of the phone in territory that will deliver and focus the attention of the customer on moving forward. So it just removes another barrier. The fifth key I've highlighted is support, and again, they all intertwine into each other, but you will find that offering that level of support, how, as a hardware manufacturer, if I send 1,000 units into a school in the middle of Africa, how do I support that? How practically do I manage returns, failures, faults, whatever that might be? Very simple questions. It's hard enough to do in the UK, and the UK is a fraction of the size. So training and support are key, both from a reseller but also a school user. So what happens when I open the box? What's my experience when I open that box up on the first day of getting the device? If we can reduce the requirements on support, not only does it look better for the product, if the customer can step through and not have to feel that they're at any point out of their depth, it reduces the burden on us as a company, but also on our partner in territory as well. But most importantly, it gives a nice, clean, consistent approach for the school. They're up and running and they're happy straight from day one. I mentioned at the bottom there, I've highlighted the sort of maintaining levels of service, and I've mentioned that already. It's key to me. As I've said it several times, is that we keep that consistent approach. We work very hard in the UK we're very proud of what we do. We want that representation. We want that to carry through all of our territories. So I want to keep that consistency across all of our territories, whether it be response rates, how we respond to people, what their experience is from the minute they ring us, whether it's someone that's been with us for 4 years or someone that's thinking of joining us further down the line. I want that consistency in that management. And you can spend a lot of time and effort and money flying backwards and forwards to different countries trying to keep on that. That again mirrors back onto the fact of choosing that right partner from the beginning. They might be enthusiastic. We're very fortunate that we've won a lot of awards for our products, so we naturally attract a lot of interest. But filtering out and finding that right partner that is, as I say, an extension of you, it's your in-territory partner, they're representing you to the customer, is essential. So keeping that level of support, that training is key. Training is key in everything that we do, and that is whether it's us as LearnPad, whether it's us training telesales teams in territory, whether it's us training trainers, whether it's us training the teachers. You cannot emphasize enough how important training is, and having a consistent approach to training around all the different territories. So it's been one of our key areas, and I think I'd probably say having spent a lot of time and money doing the training has paid dividends for us around the world. By investing in our time, in our partners, it works, and it represents both companies better. Everyone has a better consistent experience, and most importantly, the schools get a better experience. And that's got to be the number one. You don't lose sight of why you're doing this. We are a company at the end of the day, but our number one goal is that our solution is used effectively and efficiently day in, day out in schools. So always bearing that in mind, as I say, that is key to doing what we do. Oh, there we go, broke it. I know I've rambled very quickly through some pieces there, but I just wanted to give you an idea of our thinking, our logic behind it. So just to summarise realistically, for me, it's essential that you choose, first of all, the right person. You know why you're going somewhere and what you want to achieve as a business. It's no point in me just taking my equipment and saying, I want to get into the Asian markets and I'm going to do this and this and this. Unless I clearly understand what their requirement is, what are the struggles, the pain points within that territory, even down to a school level, spending time on the ground yourself, understanding how teachers teach in schools in Dubai, what are their requirements, what are their issues, what are their concerns, and then tailoring the solution to fit that. Just to emphasize again the piece of that planning piece, so the second slide, think about where you might be in 10 years now when you're designing or thinking about your community or your product will save you a massive amount of time in the future, not having to go and redesign packaging, as I mentioned, or complete systems because you forgot to support Cyrillic characters, for example.